Hey, I'm Anderson Cooper. Welcome to the podcast. The Middle East showdown heating up. President-elect Obama heading for the hot seat, plus an alleged dumb crook, a cheap crook, caught on tape trying to hire a hitman. See how little police say she wanted to pay to have her husband whacked. Let's get started. Ben Wiedemann joins us in Los Angeles, Daily Beast columnist Reza Aslan, author of No God But God, and on the phone in Gaza, New York Times reporter Tigreed El-Qadari. Nick, would Israel really be amassing this number of troops and artillery on the border if they actually were not planning a ground invasion? Is it possible it's just to put pressure on Hamas?
No, I think all the indications are that they're going to use this force at some point. The question is exactly what do they use it for? What sort of incursion? What are the aims and objectives when they go in? But all the indications are there that at some point it's going to happen. Just when, perhaps diplomacy can win out first. But I don't think anyone's holding their breath on that.
So it could be a question of them going in to take territory, hold territory, or quickly go in and strike and move back out. We just don't know at this point. But Ben, Gaza is one of the most densely populated places in the world. There's like 1.3 million people living in just 139 square miles. How difficult will any kind of ground assault be?
It will be very difficult, Anderson, because of not only the population density, but also Hamas is well aware that this sort of thing was eventually going to happen. And they have lots of experience at dealing with Israeli incursions, not necessarily the kind or the size that may happen in the coming days, but certainly there have been more incursions into Gaza than I can count. I was in Gaza last February when there was a major Israeli incursion, had the highest death toll of any Israeli operation in Gaza before this current operation, and the Hamas fighters and others had well prepared for it. They had put up roadblocks that had booby traps in them, and that's only on the military side. On the civilian side, there are people everywhere. So when you start firing tanks and artillery into Gaza, it's inevitable that civilians are going to be killed. Anderson?
Tigreed, you're in Gaza. There's a ban on foreign journalists entering there. You're on the ground. UN said Gaza is facing what they call a critical emergency. Can you describe what it's like right now for ordinary citizens?
Anderson, it's really terrorizing. It's another sleepless night in Gaza. It's been a week now. I myself, I work alone. I have my own place, but out of fear, I decided to join a family. And all the windows are open now because you never know who's Israel going to target. There are many F-16 drones hovering in the sky of Gaza, and you never know who is the target. So you keep all the windows open, no electricity, and it's freezing cold. And, everybody's trying to sleep, but there is no way you can manage to sleep. And, Hamas has been in power now in Gaza for a year and a half. And they are on the ground. They are from the people. And it's a reality. Hamas is a reality that Israel is trying to ignore.
So how much support is there still for Hamas? I mean, there had been some quarters that had hoped there would be a dwindling support within Gaza for Hamas after sanctions and the like. You're saying that's not happening?
And I've been talking to many people during this week, and at the beginning, people were blaming here Hamas for their crisis. Others were blaming Abu Mazen. But in the hospital, in the intensive care unit, when people lose loved ones, who do they scream against? They scream against Abu Mazen, Egypt, and Israel. And that was shocking.
Reza,
but you could hear the mixing of opinion in the first few days of this crisis. But yesterday, after Israel killed that Qassam leader with his entire family, voices were different yesterday. People were blaming Israel. All of a sudden, they are saying Palestinians have to diagnose what's really the real issue here. It's the Israeli military occupation. For many people here, they are starting to be aware of it. And this is what they say. They are realizing that war is not against Hamas. War is against the Palestinians, the citizens who are living in Gaza.
I want to bring in Reza.
And when I ask why, they say Israel has been hitting the civic infrastructure. They bombed Ministry of Justice, the governmental compounds, a university, and of course, many Hamas leaders' houses. But they destroyed everything that used to be PA, that used to be places for the people to go, including the civil police.
Tagreed, I want to bring in Reza Aslan. What, from your perspective, what is Israel's endgame? I mean, was it simply to knock out Hamas's military capabilities? Was it the hopes that people would rise up against Hamas? What is their goal?
Honestly, Anderson, I'm not sure if Israel knows what the goal is yet. For that matter, neither does Hamas. It's difficult to figure out what the end game in this is going to be. If Israel is truly planning an incursion here, it has two choices. There's been some talk from the Israeli government about just a brief incursion, which would essentially be useless. I mean, that would be just some boots on the ground, perhaps some more casualties, definitely some more civilian casualties, some more images splashed across the Arab world, and then really not getting anything from it. The other option is even worse, which would be a reoccupation of sorts of Gaza, which nobody in Israel wants. On the side of Hamas as well, I mean, it's very easy, of course, for Khaled Mashal from the comfort of Damascus to be making these kinds of threats. But Hamas itself knows that there is no winning this conflict militarily. I think that we're going to be witnessing what we have witnessed so many times in the past, which is just an extended period of violence followed by a truce or a ceasefire, plus a rearming of Hamas, a new election in Israel, and then rinse and repeat.
Ben, you've seen a lot of this before. Do you agree with Reza?
Yeah, I think that short of a political resolution of this conflict, this is going to go on. The Israeli officials say that they would like to see Hamas either removed from power or overthrown by the people, but we've seen in the past, going back to 1982 with the Israeli invasion of Lebanon, which was aimed at destroying the PLO, that you cannot militarily destroy a grassroots political movement. And like it or not, that's what Hamas is. And therefore, there will be probably some sort of incursion. There will be great damage done to the infrastructure in Gaza. Hamas will probably take a beating, but politically it will survive. And therefore, we're going to be in this cycle for the foreseeable future, Anderson, until the political leaders in the U.S., in Israel, among the Palestinians, make a serious decision that they need to pursue peace rather than pretend to be pursuing peace and actually doing the opposite. Anderson?
Ben, when you look at the situation, I mean, the Palestinians blame Israelis for killing civilians. Israelis say, well, look, we're targeting military installations, Hamas installations, but they are hiding weapons in people's homes. They are meshed within the civilian population. Who's right here?
Well, I'm not going to go down that way and tell you who's wrong and who's right. But, Hamas is part of the Palestinian population. It is an indigenous grassroots political movement that has
but their headquarters, their buildings,
support among the people.
Their buildings are in civilian populations.
Yes, that is true, but as I said, they are part of Palestinian society, and frankly, in a place like Gaza, there's nowhere else to put your installations except among the civilian population, because the civilian population is everywhere. It's unavoidable.
We're going to have to leave it there. Ben Wiedemann, thank you very much. Nick Robertson, Tagreed on the ground in Gaza, and Reza Aslan as well. Thank you.